She's deformed, Amy.
It was as though there was someone else there in the room with her and she was...
Maria?
The movie begins with a 17-year-old Maria Brennan as she gets ready for school. Despite her wealthy life, she struggles with shyness and bullying, especially from a boy named Mark. Her only support is her best friend, Lily, a confident figure skater with a boyfriend, Sean. Though Maria values their friendship, she sometimes envies Lily's social ease. Her parents, especially her father, worry about her isolation. Dan is more concerned about her lack of interest in dating and making friends than being overprotective. He and Amy keep urging her to attend prom, but Maria refuses every time. One evening, troubled by her parents' concerns, Maria sneaks into their bedroom to try on her mother's makeup. As she reaches for lipstick, she notices something behind the mirror, an old sonogram showing twin babies. Confused, she stares at it, unaware of its hidden secrets. Later, in the bathroom, she is frozen with fear when her reflection moves on its own. Shocked, she stumbles but quickly stands up. Wiping the steam from the mirror, she expects it to stop, but it doesn't. Panicked, she flees the bathroom. The next day, Maria tells her parents, but they dismiss it as her imagination. At school, things get worse when Mark trips her in the hallway, sending her to the floor. As laughter erupts, Sean unexpectedly steps in, helps her up, and warns Mark to back off. That evening, Maria relaxes in a warm bath, replaying Sean's kindness in her mind, but her peace is shattered by soft cries, like a newborn's, echoing through the room. Suddenly, vivid images of her birth flash through her thoughts, leaving her unsettled. Just as she drifts off, a voice calls her name. Curious, she follows it, only to see her own reflection speaking from the mirror.
Who are you? You don't remember me?
Then the reflection introduces herself as Airam, and Maria listens. Airam is everything Maria isn't confident about, but they begin talking, sharing thoughts about their lives and struggles. Airam promises to help Maria change, making her stronger. The next morning, Maria announces she wants to go to prom. At school, she surprises everyone again by showing interest in learning to skate for the winter prom. That evening, she visits her father at his clinic, hoping to spend time with him. Afterward, Dan mentions Maria's upcoming birthday and asks her to visit his clinic the next day for a special gift. That night, she tells Airam, who immediately casts doubt on his intentions. Airam insists that Dan only cares about himself and can't be trusted. Maria refuses to believe it, convinced he's planning something meaningful, maybe even a car. The next day, Dan's surprise is nothing like she expected. Instead of a gift, he offers her a cosmetic procedure to fix her large ears and nose. Heartbroken, Maria realizes the truth. Her father doesn't just ignore her struggles, he resents her for not being perfect. That evening, Airam comforts Maria, whispering that they should teach Dan a lesson. She also calls Amy weak for tolerating his cruelty, making Maria question her mother's silence. As they talk, Maria starts to feel lighter, even laughing with Airam. But their giggles attract Amy's attention. When she asks who Maria is talking to, Maria struggles to explain. Suspicious, Amy begins to wonder if her daughter is using drugs. Then, Amy confides in Dan that night, but he barely listens. Instead, he hands her sleeping pills, applies beauty cream to her face, and tucks her into bed like a routine. As she drifts off, she mumbles about her recurring nightmares, but Dan dismisses them, assuring her they'll fade like always. The next day, Maria joins Lily for ice skating practice. Stepping onto the ice for the first time, she immediately loses balance and crashes to the ground. Expecting Lily to help her up, she's instead met with a cold warning. Lily tells her to stay away from Sean. The words sting more than the fall, and Maria realizes her closest friend is turning against her. Afterward, Maria confides in Airam, offering comfort while fueling her doubts. Airam insists that Lily was never a real friend, just someone obsessed with status and popularity. She tells Maria that no one truly understands her pain, except for her. Then she makes a startling suggestion. Maria should switch places with her and let Airam take control. Confused and vulnerable, Maria hesitates. A part of her is tempted and even reaches toward the mirror, ready to make contact. But before anything happens, Amy suddenly enters,
Who are you talking to?
reminding her that she's late for prom. Snapping back to reality, Maria quickly pulls away, throws on her dress, and rushes out the door. As soon as she arrives, she regrets it. The flashing lights and crowded room make her feel trapped. Overwhelmed, she turns to leave, until Sean appears beside her, silently extending his hand in support. Surprised, Maria takes his hand, allowing him to guide her to the center of the rink. Together, they begin to move, their dance slow and uncertain at first, but gradually more fluid. For the first time that night, Maria feels a sense of ease. Meanwhile, from a distance, Lily watches the scene unfold. Her expression darkens, jealousy creeping into her eyes as she takes in the sight of Maria in Sean's arms. Lily, unable to hide her jealousy, startles Maria, causing her to lose balance and fall hard onto the ice. As Sean moves to help, Lily blocks him. Before Maria can get up, Mark appears, seizing the moment to humiliate her. He grabs her and drags her across the rink as everyone watches, laughing, ignoring her desperate cries for help. By the time Mark finally lets go, Maria is beyond humiliated. Fighting back tears, she stumbles away. This moment shatters her. She no longer wants to fight. That night, standing before the mirror, she makes her final decision. She lets Airam take control. As their hands meet, the transformation begins, a hypnotic and surreal exchange. When it's over, Maria is trapped inside the mirror, while Airam steps into reality. In another room, Amy is caught in a haunting nightmare, reliving the agonizing day she gave birth to Maria. She screams in pain as flashes of the past consume her mind, unaware of the shift that has just occurred. The next morning, Airam arrives at school radiating confidence. She strides through the halls with an effortless presence, catching everyone's attention. When she spots Mark, she walks straight up to him, her boldness throwing him off guard. Before he can react, she leans in, runs a hand over him, and licks his ear before striding away. Stunned and speechless, Mark is confused. Meanwhile, Lily approaches, feigning concern, but Airam sees through the act instantly. Still, she plays along, keeping her tone warm and friendly. When Lily offers to help her with skating again, Airam agrees without hesitation. Later, Airam visits Dan's clinic, skillfully distracting the receptionist just long enough to steal the contact details of Dan's suspected mistress. Wasting no time, she sets a trap, arranging a meeting between Amy and the woman. Her plan unfolds perfectly. Amy steps into the elevator and comes face to face with her husband's affair. At the ice rink, students gather for practice. Airam finds Mark alone and lures him into the restroom under false pretenses. The moment they're alone, she strikes, swinging a hockey stick straight into his knee. A sickening crack fills the room as he collapses, writhing in agony. Airam simply turns and walks away, leaving him to suffer. Afterward, Airam stays behind with Lily for another skating session. This time, something is different. She glides across the ice with effortless grace, no longer the clumsy girl who once struggled to stand. Lily watches in shock. A feeling of unease creeps in. Something about Maria is different now. Airam's expression darkens as she locks eyes on Lily, a dangerous glint in her gaze. Without warning, she lunges. Lily skates away in a panic, but fear clouds her focus. She loses control, crashing hard onto the cement. The impact is brutal. Blood spills onto the ice as she struggles to stay conscious. Airam simply stands there, watching coldly as Lily's life fades away. After a moment, Airam finally calls the authorities, flawlessly playing the role of a horrified friend. Her voice trembles as she reports Lily's accident, making it sound like she was powerless to stop it. But in the reflection of her phone screen, Maria's true self is visible. Later that evening, Airam returns home, only to be met by a detective wanting to question her. Before he can start, Amy steps in, insisting her daughter needs rest and asking to postpone the interrogation. In the bathroom, Amy confronts Airam, demanding the truth. But Airam's response is chilling. She simply states that Lily got what she deserved. Hearing this, Maria, still imprisoned in the mirror, is terrified. She pleads with Airam to switch back, desperate to stop whatever is unfolding, but Airam refuses, smirking as she whispers that she isn't finished yet. Maria watches helplessly as Airam's twisted game continues. At Lily's funeral, the detective offers his condolences to Sean before locking eyes with Airam. His intense stare unsettles her, and she quickly decides to leave. But before she can slip away, Sean stops her, pulling her into a tight embrace. That night, Airam sneaks out and heads to Sean's place. In his room, he hands her a joint, and they start talking. As their conversation deepens, Airam moves closer, locking eyes with him. She confesses that she's imagined being with him for a long time. Slowly, she takes control, seductively leading him into something more intimate. Sean hesitates at first, but eventually gives in, and the night turns passionate. The next day, Airam meets Dan for dinner. Unlike before, he now seems genuinely concerned, sensing that Lily's death has affected her. But Airam remains completely unfazed, showing no sign of grief. As they talk, Dan admits he has been avoiding home since his affair was exposed, struggling to face Amy. When Airam asks if he plans to fix things, he reassures her that he will. During dinner, Airam eats messily, unsettling Dan. Frustrated, he snaps at her to behave. She obeys, but secretly resents him. The next day, she skips school, dragging Sean down with her, pulling him deeper into her reckless world. One afternoon, they check into a motel, but their plans are cut short when Sean's mother calls, and the police want to question him. Panicked, he insists they leave, but Airam refuses. She tries to distract him with kisses, but he pulls away, growing suspicious.
Stop! Stop!
He demands to know why she's so desperate to avoid the police. Realizing that he's catching on, Airam panics. Without hesitation, she grabs a nearby bottle and smashes it against his head. The impact is devastating. Sean collapses, struggling for breath, but within minutes, he's dead. Afterward, Airam stumbles into the bathroom, staring into the mirror where Maria's reflection appears, completely shattered. Tears stream down her face as she sobs uncontrollably. For a moment, Airam and Maria reach toward each other, a strange sense of comfort passing between them. At home, Amy is haunted by another nightmare, this time revealing a buried truth. In the dream, she remembers giving birth to Maria and her twin sister, who was severely deformed.
She's deformed, Amy.
Dan, believing the child had no future, made the horrifying decision to end her life. As the memory resurfaces, Amy realizes Airam isn't just a part of Maria's mind. She is the lost twin who was never meant to survive. Back in reality, Airam arrives at Dan's clinic. Concerned, Dan rushes to her, carrying her inside and laying her on the operating table. As he fetches water, Airam does something shocking. She starts undressing. Dan, startled, demands she stop, his voice rising in anger. But Airam continues, stripping away her clothing. Then, in a chilling tone, she asks if he finds her beautiful. Hesitant, Dan nods. But she doesn't stop there. She presses further, asking if he would still love her if she had been born deformed. Dan hesitates before responding, claiming his love would have been unconditional and that he would have accepted her no matter what. But Airam sees through the lie. Without warning, she lunges forward, slashing his throat with a hidden blade. Blood spills across the clinic floor as Dan gasps for air. Airam watches fury in her eyes, demanding to know why he couldn't love her when she was alive. Once he takes his final breath, Airam stands amidst the chaos, breathing heavily. She calls out for Maria, but there's no response from the mirror. For the first time, Airam feels truly alone. Returning home, she finds Amy lying in bed, unresponsive. Without a word, Airam crawls into bed beside her, resting her head on her mother's shoulder. In the end, Amy embraces both Maria and Airam. Their figures blur, merging into one. Maria and Airam are no longer separate. They have become. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you on the next one. Fear awaits you.